My high C48, Leo Coys and KTK. Lucas on the flight, causing turbulence, causing waves on our way to the confluence. New voice for the fans, from the pitch to the stands. My high looks than the South Bank lads. Leo Coys and a homie crashed. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. Yeah. It's chance, I'm bound up, rounds, I love the head to the wars. If it's Pids, you're off the C38. This time is now. Locals on the jump to hold it down. Like the stream and do 5 stars. The mile high Hotspur and crash the car.
Yes, you filthy animals. Welcome back to the Confluence. My name is Leo Coys, the Mile High Hotspur, and I'm joined by my homie, a certified rapid sicko, the co-host of this here podcast, and the driver of the Daddy Shuttle, my homie Crash. Happy Tuesday evening to you, my homie. How's it been since the last time we kicked it? How are you doing today, homie? And what's going on?
Yeah, good, man. It's been I think we've all kind of taken a couple days of kind of, a bit of a break. It's been a whirlwind of soccer, I guess you could say, right? This weekend was good. Like I mentioned on Saturday night, had soccer on Saturday, soccer on Sunday, back at training on Monday with my girls, and then again back in it today as well. So just trying to stay warm. It has been kind of a cool, drizzly couple days here in the Mile High City. So I'll be happy for some sunshine to come back, but we definitely need the rain. So I've been enjoying that a bit. But yeah, man, just excited to get back on a pod and talk about kind of the craziness that's happened over the past couple week or so.
Yeah. Well, no, homie, and also to the in today's episode, it has been kind of a bit of a stretch of weird, Rapids games. So it won't just be the Vancouver game. We will, kind of just touch on eventually just kind of what's been transpiring throughout this kind of hectic 3-game period, Crash, if you will. But before we do get into the podcast, Crash, let's just big up everybody who's tuning in right now, whether you're getting your fix on the podcast platforms or whether you're on YouTube or however it is you're getting the content. It's much appreciated, my homies. And apart from the football, Crash, we even had to roll out the confluencepod.com website, which was debuted, I guess, during our watch along that we did, the Vancouver versus the Colorado Rapids watch along. Crash, before we even talk about anything Rapids related in the pod, bro, how dope has it just been from the Confluence point of view? We've had a few watch-alongs, massive amount of people that decided to join, bro. The interactions, the comments, just the reception was just more than what I expected, Crash. I'm not even gonna lie. Not that I went into it like with expectations. But homie, even if I did have any, they were blown out of the water by the amount of love that we got in the comments. People throughout the whole game, even after when we recorded our last podcast. I don't know if you guys remembered, Crash and I were live doing the last recording of our pod. Dude, how dope has it been just, being a part of the Confluence? We obviously have seen firsthand what type of community we're trying to build. And honestly, what type of community is on the raft here meeting us up at the Confluence, my homie?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. I've been able to interact with different people and whether it's on the streams or in the comments or on X or anywhere, we've been getting a lot more traction and a lot more conversation, which has been great. So we really appreciate all the support from everyone. I'm even starting, to get, fellow coaches or different people pop up and be like, oh, I really like your podcast, and getting, friends, seeing the content. And so we really appreciate the support, whether you're a Rapid supporter, a friend, or anything. So it's been really exciting.
Yeah, I second that, homie. I agree. And big up the Mile High Locos, big up the C38, big up to everybody involved. Tomorrow we have a huge game. I know we'll touch on that a little bit later on, but big up to everybody that's involved with the game day experience and just everything that goes on at the Richard to make it a fun time. When it is that we're able to be in unison with each other there at the ground. So look, my homie, I know tons of you guys probably don't want to think back on that game that we played against Vancouver because if I'm honest with you, in my point of view, I think it was one of, if not the worst showings or displays or games that we've seen under Matt Wells and this new look Rapids team. Don't get me wrong, there's still tons of talking points. However, the blatant one for me, Crash, is just have we seen a performance this dross this whole time?
You know, I think it wasn't the performance that we would have hoped, but I also think it was the competition that we were playing, and so I think there's a bit of both there that we have to be mindful of, um, and so I can't say that it was a performance that we should be ashamed of or angry about. We were playing one of the best teams in the league, that with where they've had almost all their games at home or in the Pacific Northwest since the start of MLS season. They aren't. There's no midweek games for them. They even when the MLS had Week 9 midweek, they didn't. So
Mm,
there was a lot of factors going into this game that you know I wouldn't expect us to necessarily win. The performance, you could look at it and say, yes, we could have been more clinical and different things, but overall, we were playing one of the toughest teams in the league. So to come away with it and make it as competitive as it was, I think from the face of it, it was a good result. There are a lot of different elements of this game that we have to be better at to
mhm.
be considered one of the top teams in the league.
Yeah, definitely, my homie. And just off the bat for me, it was just a tough away night. Like you said, a lot of it does have to do with the opponent on the night. But if I'm honest with you, that scoreline throughout the whole game, it feels very well deserved, but also frustrating because the Rapids did have a few moments. You know, the Rapids weren't like 100% completely outclassed, uh, but we were definitely just second best in all key moments, all key um, aspects of the game. Vancouver, my homies, they just look sharper, more clinical, and honestly, way more urgent than we did. Um,
Mhm.
but one thing that I noticed, bro, we just start very slow on this. We started very slow in this game. Crash, did you get the same, the same point of view on me? The same, do you feel the same way
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah, to a degree. I think the way it started, it was definitely different than the games we've had up to that point. And Vancouver was proving to be the more dominant of the two teams. And I think that was the challenge. We weren't necessarily, playing with that front foot immediately. We were definitely being put under pressure right away. And it definitely, you could tell it was something that the team wasn't comfortable with.
Hmm.
And it took us a while to really get settled, and I think it really took those first almost 2 goals for us to really start finding a possession and a way into the game. And that could have been um, you know, by the way that the Vancouver was playing, where they got up 2 goals, pretty quickly. I mean, the first goal we can touch on, it was, I think in the first 7 minutes or so. So having a goal that quickly come into hand, and they kept the pressure on and kept fighting for the next one. And it took us a while to really find that footing to start gaining possession. And and it wasn't until that moment that we started to kind of enter the game and make it challenging, and it really did become an exciting game to watch at that point. But we were definitely showing we were the second best team on the day.
Yeah. So, Crash, I love to just pick your brain. You obviously, I'm not afraid to admit it. I feel like you understand the game a little bit better. You're able to watch the game and pick up things that maybe the casual fan or the newer Rapid sickos probably can't. Did Vancouver? Was that Vancouver just constantly exposing something, or was there just the cost of playing three elite teams in a row?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably a little bit of both. You know, Vancouver was very clinical with their passes. They were very smart. They seemed to be in position on the field um, that exploited a lot of the space and really just kind of played through us in a lot of different times. And I think one of the things that we were struggling with was really connecting our passes and
Mm,
really keeping that possession, because they would push through, we would get the ball, and then we would find these opportunities to pass, and they'd get intercepted, or the movement wasn't clinical. We would do these little passes that we would normally make, and Vancouver was there intercepting, or those balls would go straight into a defender. So I think it was, it was a bit of Vancouver being in the right time or in the right space, and really having a really strong defensive shape against us. But then I think it was also us just not really being as clinical as we could be on the ball. So you combine both of those together against a team who's one of that, or the top scoring team in the league. You're going to get punished in moments, and we saw that a couple times throughout the night.
yeah. No, and before, I mean, before we really digest more of the game, just first impressions and looking back, uh, I guess we kind of had some sort of bright attacking moments, right? There were definitely some flashes going forward, especially in transition, right? And it felt like when the Rapids were able to break those lines quickly, Vancouver did we were able to make them look a bit more vulnerable. Including our goal, the one that we scored, came from one of those few sequences where everything just kind of clicked, right? And that
Mhm.
kind of shows even against these elite teams, um, right? That shows what this team really can do um, in those moments when we're able to move the ball, like you said, when we were
Yeah.
getting that link up play and stuff like that. Um, Crash, why do you think it only comes in moments, homie, instead of like sustained pressure?
I think it's still just the quality on the team. I think we have some you look at the two teams, between Vancouver and the Rapids, and you can clearly see the quality on the field with
Yeah.
Vancouver, right? And it's not a knock on the Rapids, but they're a team with seasoned players. They're a team with with solid attackers and smart play, and an identity they've been working with for a while now. So you're going to have a team that's much more clinical and much more understanding of where to be and how to be, and the whole works, where, again, this is the 10th game of the season, and we're still getting, finding that rhythm. So this is
Yeah.
us playing against one of the best teams, some really quality players, and you're going to struggle with that sometimes, and you
Yeah.
could see it where those perfect balls into the right space, or those 1-2 passes. I mean, I think that one goal off the assist from Mueller was a pass into Mueller with a one-touch volley into the box and a score,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, that's some of the quality that you get from a player like that. And I think those are the things that, we're gonna struggle with. And you kind of saw the same thing going back even to Miami. Some of the attacking elements in the quality and veteran status of those players, not that they're aged, but that they know how to do the things that they need to do. We have a very young team that's still learning, and doesn't have as much experience on the game like that. And so you're going to get moments like that.
Mm. No, and look, Omi, again, I think this is kind of going to be a theme of us talking about this match is the quality of the team that we went up to was just a bit more. But still, to bring it back, of the slow starts and just the way we struggle, and it's just finding a grip on the game, even when we seem to be the ones on the front foot. This has become a pattern. That later start, or just the Rapids come out flat, almost more reactive and second to everything. Um, and the surprising thing about it was normally it's us that are trying to dictate it. And that's what I'm saying with the quality. Vancouver just dictated this game crash from the jump. Bro, even during the watch along, how many times were we like gasping and hands on our head because Vancouver had tons of early chances? Did you say the goal came around the 12th minute? And like you just touched on, it was a ball played out wide. Mueller, great touch to put it in there. Finds the player, and they put it in for 1-0. It did take a little bit longer for them to get their second goal. However, they were peppering us up left and right. The second goal, if I remember correctly, the ball gets played out wide, a bit higher still. And I think Rob Holding just kind of fluffs it or does messes up somehow that leaves the defender, leaves the attacker alone with the ball. And he sees Zack Steffen, who I guess we could touch on that in a little bit as well. Probably didn't have the best of games of himself. Was pretty far out of his box, and I think this was the second goal where the Vancouver player just, drifts it around him from pretty far out, gets them the second goal. And even then, bro, we were kind of, I know I could speak for myself when I say I thought there, bro, it was tits up. I thought we were probably going to concede 3 or 4 just based on the way things were going. Then in the second half, Crash, correct me if I'm wrong. Did our goal happen before their called off third goal? So I know I know
It
there was
did,
2
yes.
VARs. Okay, so we got our goal. I don't know really. I'm trying to I have a hard time right now just trying to picture it, but I think Sealy sent it in, and there was some sort of the ball bounced off of a few players, and I think Hoffa was the one that ended up pushing it into the back of the net. VAR came up. They kind of thought that maybe it was going to be a handball. They end up confirming the goal, which meant it stood. Rapids at that point, bro, we were back in it. 1-2. You're thinking, oh my God, this goal was literally against the run of play, but we have a freaking fighter's chance to make something happen. And it kind of felt like the Rapids used a little bit of momentum to kind of get back into the game. And that's where, of course, we get the same type of action in the Vancouver end. Again, ball gets sent in. I don't know. I'm having a hard time remember, but the Vancouver player does use his hand to get the ball into the back of the net, or at least in the build-up play. They go to VAR for that one, and that one is overturned. It was no goal. And again, I figured, we're still in it. Vancouver were peppering us up, Crash. And we fought and fought and fought until I think we were just on tired legs by the end of, I think it was maybe like the 85th, 86th, 87th minute when Vancouver just ended up slicing us up. Crash, you used that during the stream. We were just getting carved up like butter, I think you said. And again, one of those plays where they did that. And what ended up happening, homie, they get the third goal on Rapids' tired legs, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
We probably ran out of gas way before then, Crash, and we were just punching on empty. What do you make of the game? What do you make of the first half, the goals? Bring us up to date on how you're feeling about it, homie.
Yeah, no, I think like I mentioned, it wasn't up until the second goal from Vancouver that happened that we really entered the game. I mean, all the chances were coming from Vancouver. We weren't really giving any sort of answer for it. The goal that we did pull back right at the end of the first half was a good goal, and I think if I remember correctly, it was a nice ball from Hamzat out wide to Georgie Manungu. and Georgie was able to get the ball into the box, and it was a mix between Sealy and Hoffa there, and it just one of those things where I think Sealy came in, tried to get a touch on it. The goalie, Vancouver goalie, was able to get into it, and Hoffa was just able to kind of muscle the ball into the back of the net. So it was good to see them, in the right spots and creating an opportunity, and I think that was the key of it.
Yeah.
And it was a close call there, and I do think it came off of his knee. They did VAR it, but it did go our way to get us back, and it really wasn't up until that moment that we started seeing momentum really coming in from the Rapids after that point. And then it started to kind of be a back and forth match from there on out. So I think, really without that goal in the end of the first half, it would have been it could have been a really tough rest of the game, because I think that breathed a lot of life into us and got us into that second half. The second half, you started to see some, tired legs. You started to see, the fact that we were missing someone like a Josh Atencio. You could see, how we made some substitutions, and you can see Matt Wells really kind of pushing in to find that equalizer with the attack. That did leave us exposed. So there was a bunch of elements there really into the second that you could see the team trying to make things happen. But you after a run of games that we've had and over such a short period of time, you definitely see our depth was in quality and depth as well, starting to kind of struggle. Again, not knocking the ability of the guys. It's just, like we mentioned before, you're against some of the top, the top team in the league. Any gap in quality is going to be very visible.
Yeah. And Crash, just throwing it out there, my homie, just at face value. Is this a frustrating loss, or is it a fair result considering the circumstances, bro?
At the end of the day, I think it's a fair loss. I mean, again, lots of factors going into this. It would have been nice to come out of this with a point. I think if we would have found that equalizer, it would have been a different story. We could have likely finished it out. But I think at the end of the day, this wasn't a game we were expected to win. I think we were going to go into it fighting for every element of it. But I think at the end of the day, everyone's looking at going, okay, the Rapids actually made it competitive. And I think that's the key of it. So, I think you're looking at the standings, you're kind of looking at power rankings, you're looking at all those kinds of elements of where the Rapids have ranked, and this loss isn't making us drop drastically in the table by any means. So, end of the day, should we have won it? I would have loved to. Should we have drawn it? That would have been a great way to walk away from this stretch. But a loss is something we can learn from and realize, okay, what do we have to do to beat these guys? And maybe we were able to get something out of that game and kind of move on.
Yeah. No, I agree, homie. Apart from them being more superior, do you think other teams might be able to look at the way Vancouver was able to dominate us the way they did? Will they be able to, will other teams be able to kind of present that tactical blueprint against us? Or, I mean, like we said, was it just the quality? The cream rose to the top on that night, like I said on the watch along, my homie. Is this something that other teams could probably look at and say we could probably try and hit the Rapids like this? Or because I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later. We've seen LAFC. Let me take it back. We've seen Inter Miami. We've seen LAFC, and now we've seen Vancouver. Three huge opponents. Three different games completely, homie. So it's not even like we could say the teams have all been playing us the same. But do you see an instance where another team, let's just say we have Houston coming up soon. Do you see them being able to kind of replicate that against our team? Do you see the Rapids kind of falling into a worrying state where like other teams may be able to do that on us? Or is it just was it just boys against men against what was it? Boys amongst men's, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I think at this point everybody kind of knows the system that we play and how we play it. I don't think that there's going to be a team that's going to look at Vancouver and say, "Oh, this is how we beat the Rapids." I mean, you might look at that. You might look at the Miami game, and you could say, "Well, they were actually competitive all up until the point one of our best players had a moment of quality," and that was honestly, some of that was Vancouver at the same time. They created a lot of opportunities and a lot of chances that it could have been a completely different game, but at the end of the day, I think it was a situation where um, I don't think anybody's going to take dramatic steps from this game to say, oh, now I've unlocked Matt Wells' system and we're gonna beat it. It's a pretty straightforward system if you look at it on paper and how we play. It's us against them, and we believe that we're going to be able to beat you, and that's at the end of the day, I think is kind of the system. Um, and there's nuance to that and kind of how and what we see from how other teams play that you're going to see Matt Wells directive players to do, but no one's going to come out of this going, oh, that's the key to beat the Rapids.
Oh, and like I said, to be fair, we kind of have approached every game a bit differently. This was just kind of the first one that I could say all season where I was like, "Holy crap, we're definitely in for a a whooping, if you will." But it could have been worse, homie. It definitely could have been better. Um, Crash, on a day where we got beat 3-1. What were some of your positive takeaways, bro? Positive performers, maybe just something that stands out still. Looking back on the defeat, what could there be a positive that we could take out from the game?
Yeah, definitely. For me, the positives were really Georgie Manungu and Hoffa. I mean, they were the highest rated players on the team. Hoffa was able to get another goal, which, if I'm not mistaken, he is now the leading goal contributor in the MLS when it comes to
Yep.
players. So I think he is 11, and Peter Musa is sitting at 10. So that's pretty exciting. I mean, I think you look at those guys, and they had the best game of the group. So it's good to see that coming from our attacking players. It was definitely, our defending wasn't the best. And, I
Right.
think, you know, despite Lucas Harrington having, still having a pretty solid game, this was his worst game as a Rapid. And it's not
Mhm.
big. I don't think it's necessarily because he's a bad, he's like taking a dip or a dive. It's just we were against the best attacking team in the MLS. It's going to stretch any defensive unit to the limit, and you could definitely see that. So, you know, positives were definitely some of our attacking players, and some of our negatives were our defending wasn't up to snuff with the best attacking team in the league.
Crash, what about Matt Wells on the day? Um, Saw the adversity, made substitutions earlier, kind of made some substitutions that we can say we probably were. While the Yappy one we're always expecting, but even in the watch along, I forget who it was, but I think it was somebody on Instagram, Big Yourself Up, who was talking about the substitutions as well. Thought maybe we'd see Keegan Rosenberry in. He ended up coming on a bit earlier. What about Matt Wells's, ability, or I guess not ability, but mindfulness to, like you said earlier, to try and just tweak things a bit earlier this game because he's seen we're kind of getting, it might have been able to get out of hand. So he made some adjustments right there. Were you happy with
Mhm.
the way he went about it? You're a coach, my homie. Would you have tried something differently, or just what? Break it down, homie. What did you think of the substitutions and the way I guess Matt Wells was still trying to uh, attack this game?
Yeah, no, I mean, the substitutions did kind of make sense. I think the way I look at it is, both Navarro and Thompson did get the sub out. But I think the interesting thing is we also got Rosenberry, which was great to see him come in. But it was kind of how we shifted those players around. You know that
Mhm.
that substitute Paxton Aronson came in for Yappy, which I thought was interesting. So it pushed, you know, it kind of pushed the players around in a different way. Yappy's playing. It looked like we almost went to like a 4-4-2 to a degree, which
Mhm.
I thought was interesting with Yappy and Navarro up top. So it definitely, some of the stuff did shift around and played a little bit different style than we're kind of accustomed to. But I thought the interesting thing too was Noah Cobb coming in for Holding um, towards the end of the game. I thought that was, maybe just stress and time. They were trying to get Rob, or maybe we just needed to get some fresh legs in that back line. So there was an interesting sub there. Yeah, and so in both Miguel Navarro came off for Manyoma, with some adjustment there again, to accommodate. So it was kind of an interesting setup, I thought. I don't think it was crazy effective necessarily, but I think it just shows
Yeah.
Matt's really trying to make things work with the people he has. I mean, he did have a limited depth pool to pull from, with Josh Atencio being suspended due to yellow card accumulation. So, it definitely was a limited bench that he had to pull from. I mean, the only other players he had to pull from were Kamani Stewart-Baines, Reggie Cannon, Ian Murphy, and Alex Harris. So, it just, some players might not be ready, and I think Reggie was one of those players it's ready to come back and get minutes, but he's not quite fully fit. So that would have had to been a dramatic shift for him to come on.
Yeah.
And then, both Alex Harris and Kamani Stewart-Baines, from a perspective, Alex has got minutes, Kamani hasn't, and
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know that they would have been a good opportunity to kind of shift things out to really find a result. So again, it just shows some of our limitations on the bench, when we go forward, and especially when you're having to manage, tired legs and congestion and suspensions and things. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. He did what he needed. He tried some things, and you could argue whether they worked or not. I can't say that they
Yeah.
were the best things, but it wasn't terrible.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, the Rob Holding one makes sense, bro. He's been clocking a lot of minutes, you know what I mean? And he's not the youngest of guys that we have in our squad. So,
Yeah.
and then you never know. I mean, not to look too far ahead, but with our game tomorrow, or if you guys are probably listening to the pod, it would be today. Um, he's probably going to start the Open Cup match as well. So, I mean, or
Mhm.
you know, who knows how we're managing his minutes. Crash, I do this every episode, my homie. We have to talk about some of the negatives through the players or maybe team wise. I want to before we do go too negative, I want to say Zack Steffen had an excellent save, might even have been two, and I remember blatantly saying like, Crash, that save is just as good as a goal on the other end because he kept us a bit more in the game. I don't know if you remember what save, but um,
Mhm.
Zack Steffen, where can we go with this, my homie? Just was it is it just little by little? Are we seeing more of, and I say this respectfully, Zach, a bozo gene in him, right? Like Christian Romero, defender from Tottenham,
Yeah.
Argentina World Cup winner, what arguably one of the best center backs, depending on how you feel about it in the world. But for me,
Mhm.
massive bozo gene that just deflates all of that. And Zach Steffen, for me, like I said, I say it tiptoeing around eggshells, but has he got
Mhm.
that bozo gene in him that just kind of makes these mistakes a little bit too often? We've seen it cost us a bit this season, my homie. We're seeing these errors pop up. Is it a lack of concentration? Is it just something that's just a part of his game? Mental lapse? What can we attribute that to, Crash?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, honestly. I think that's a good question. And, we've seen it, and we saw it in the chat. We saw it, online. There's a bunch of those elements there where you're kind of like, you know, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, because, you know, he he had some really positive play on the night, but he also had some really terrible play on the night. And I think, you kind of look at those things and you're like, I'm not quite sure. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what's in his mind. To me, it has to be a mental. some sort of mental game that he's losing from time to time, or he's overthinking things. You can kind of almost see the wheel spinning too much, and so I think at the end of the day, he's got the quality. It's just whether or not it all shows up at the same time.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree, my homie. And I'll even take it back to the Inter Miami game.
Mm.
Their second goal, the header that was literally right in front of him, he he rushes out to try and grab it, but then he double takes and he falls
Yeah.
back. And it's like at that point, homie, you've already given up, you've already conceded to the player, and he's getting a free
Mhm.
shot at you. And if it was it the Toronto game where he just had that howler where they just sent it from
Yeah.
half the pitch, and then
Yeah,
even in this
Keegan
game, right?
back pass. Yeah.
Yeah. So even this past game here, he was out in no man's land for that second goal that we conceded against
Mhm.
Vancouver. Got scored on, right? And you think to yourself,
Yeah.
what is going on, my guy? What is going on? Is there something that a player can do to kind of get over that? Or is it just get back between the sticks and start making saves and hopefully that'll just kind of pan itself out?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is. I think he carries a lot more weight on his shoulders than he probably should. I think the
Mm,
captain's armband probably adds to that. His experience adds to that. So there's a bunch of those pieces I think that are weighing on him to make the right decisions every time and be perfect. And as obviously with a goalkeeper, you see those mistakes more than anyone else because usually results in a goal. And I look at the Brian White goal where he kind of came out like the ball came out and he seemed like he was coming out to make a play on it, went back once he realized that there was a defender there, and then kind of just froze there in no man's land and kind of tried to do his best to block the path. And at that angle, it just took a bit of a curve, a nice curved ball into the net. And so I think, again, I look at that and Rob Holding, I think it was had him under, had Brian White under pressure. He got beat, and that's how a ball kind of gets through.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, if Zach had retreated and kind of, was able to be a little bit closer to the net and allowed Rob to be that pressure defender, it could have been a completely different story. He wouldn't have shot that if he didn't think he could, get that on target because that'd been an easy save if Zach was maybe 10 yards back.
Yeah. Now, and I'm not saying it's time to jump ship and start a freaking let's Zach out campaign. Don't get me wrong. I'm just curious, and I'm going to pose the question to the listeners and to yourself, are we just looking at a goalkeeper? Like you said, he's a skipper. Sometimes he's our captain,
Mhm.
depending on who else is on the pitch. Bears a lot of weight on his shoulders, has that European pedigree. Don't know if he was a Champions League winner. You got to forgive me. I don't know if he was there with City when they ended up winning some of those trophies, but he's got a huge CV with him. You know what I mean? He's decorated, the decorated player, obviously played for Manchester City, one of the best teams in the world. And then you come to a place like Colorado. Does that make Zack Steffen undroppable? Does that mean that Zack Steffen, regardless of what he does, like, is he always, like, is it
Mhm.
is there anything that warrants him to not be in that position?
I mean, Matt has set the standard that if somebody's better, he's going to play them. I think
Mm,
Zach is going to be a tough, somebody that's going to be tough to bench.
yeah.
But also, I will say Nico has played well. He's had his moments too, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a tough mountain for Nico to climb to really take that
Yeah.
spot, or it's going to be Zach, with continued problems, that's going to cause a change there. So I wouldn't imagine there to be any change. Zach hasn't been that bad when it comes to it. I mean, been some moments, but also he's made some really good saves that would be tough for anybody else. it's again, it's the consistency we need to see from him between the sticks every week that we would hope to see and we need to see. I don't know if we're gonna quite get it, but I don't think it's gonna be enough
Right.
for us to be like, hey, we're gonna give up this and go with something else.
Oh, and look, I'm fully aware that it's gonna take more mistakes or, God forbid, even like an injury that we don't wish upon it, but certain circumstances. I just wanted to pose the question to the viewer and to
Mhm.
the listener. How do you guys feel? Like, are you guys frustrated with the mistakes? Could there have been better? Is Nico Hansen maybe a better choice right now? Even different aspects of the game, the ball distribution, who has the better ball distribution probably comes into play. You know what I mean? The just fit for the system. Crash, any glaring negative that you want to point out about the game, homie, before we move on to the next part?
No, not really. I mean, the negative, was just us not being able to get off to the right foot and be the team that we should have been, that we kind of evolved into. Um, so I think that was the only negative elements. Defensive needs to be stronger in those settings, and our midfield really needed to be a lot stronger. So those are the only major kind of key negatives that I could see. But for the most part, it was a rough day at the office for them, and hopefully they learn from it.
Yeah, yeah, big up. Well, moving on to the next part of the podcast, my homies. I'm gonna start it off like this: Miami, LAFC, and then the Vancouver Whitecaps. Three games, three completely different games. The Messi game, I'm just gonna call it, was a spectacle when we had the inter or the Messi Globetrotter circus, I think is what I heard it referred
Mhm.
to as. Um,
Yep.
and then LAFC, a team that we've always struggled with, especially at the BMO. That's where they play at, right? The BMO.
Yeah,
Before I'm
BMO
over here
Stadium.
giving them, yeah, the BMO before I'm putting them in a different venue. Um, which always brings its own set of, I guess, difficulties. Walked away with a crucial point, one that we haven't picked up yet. There, which was the first one, and then this ass whooping that we got from Vancouver. Crash throughout these three games, my homies. What is it that we've learned, bro?
Um, I think what we've learned is we are an exciting team to watch. We can compete with the best teams in the league, and this team, given maybe some additional quality or some more time together, is going to be a really hard team, for anybody in the league. And I think you look back at all of them, and it took one moment of quality to actually overtake the Rapids. To finally get a win or a loss for the Rapids at home.
Yeah,
In a big moment. LAFC, huge opportunity for us. We went to a place we've never gotten a result from, and we're able to get a clean sheet, and
yeah,
and the draw. I mean, it was 0-0, but there that's a positive side. I mean, granted, no, we didn't get any shots in the back of the net by any means, but we also didn't concede any. So can't complain about that with a team that does have some really good quality players up front. So that was a really good plus. The other side is they're one of the best defending leagues or defensive leagues or team in the league, and so that's a positive sign there. We're playing against a challenging player or team, and that result, and we had to be more clinical in the attack. So elements there, you can say, okay, good, walked away at the point, great. That's a win in our book, even though we could see it the other way. Then Vancouver, again, this is all happening within a week of each of the games. So playing these three teams that quickly from each other is a big challenge. And so add all of those things together, I think you look at this stretch as okay, the Rapids are a real team, and anybody who
yeah,
comes to play us any differently is gonna to really feel and and walk away disappointed because they're going to underestimate us. So that's I think the only thing that'll come away from this week is that we're a team that needs to be respected.
Crash, you said something. I think you said we either give it more time or bring in better quality. Um, which our depth. uh, it's still a concern, homie, right? Because we're talking. We went on a run of. We had these 3 games, like you just said, in a matter of a week. But let me take you back even another week, homie. We had the U.S. Open Cup before the LAFC match, or was it sandwiched in between those two or something like that? Uh,
No,
oh,
LAFC was midweek. It was Wednesday
yes.
before Miami.
So right. So we had that game, and then so we had our Saturday game. I forget who it was against. You have to forgive me. And then we had the
Houston.
U.S. Open Cup. Yep. So Houston, U.S. Open Cup, then Miami, then LAFC, and then back to Vancouver, and
Vancouver.
and again tomorrow or today when you're listening to this, another game. So that's 6 games literally in a matter of 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks.
Exactly.
That is, we have to really rely on our depth, and I don't see how we can, considering we do have a bit of depth, but is it
Mhm.
depth with quality or just depth with a little bit of quantity is what I guess I'm interested to see.
Yeah.
And the real test, I guess, is going to be what team are we filled in against this Colorado Springs side? Not to get too ahead of ourselves, but still, um,
Mhm.
worried about the depth a little bit, Crash. But to go a little bit sideways with this, how, how do you feel Matt Wells is doing with all of this, my homie? Is Matt Wells ahead of schedule? Is there a schedule? Is Matt Wells so far kind of exceeding any type of expectation we could have had?
Well, with this team, I think he's well ahead of expectations. I will say he's getting a team that I think anybody expected to perform, which is amazing. So I think from the Matt Wells side, he's definitely succeeding. He's created a team with a brand of football that's exciting to watch every week. I mean, if you're not watching the Rapids every week or every game day, like I don't know what you're doing, because it's an exciting game either way. Like they've made it interesting since the Toronto game, really, with the, three red cards and the craziness of that game.
Yeah.
And then even beyond, it's been fun. Lots of goals, lots of opportunities, lots of back and forth, comebacks, excitement. I mean, it's fun. So at the end of the day, he's created that, which, from a fan's perspective, I mean, that's what you want. You want to go see exciting games. You don't want to go, like, the 0-0 LAFC game was great for us because we got a point from BMO that we've never had. But if you were there watching the game, it was boring as hell. Like, like
Yeah.
if I was an LAC fan, I mean, they didn't pressure, they didn't do it. Listening to some of their podcasts after that game to just kind of see what the hell they felt, and they were like, "What is it? What happened?" Right? So, I mean, you don't want that regularly, and we're not getting that regularly. We're getting an exciting team that scores goals and makes it fun to watch. So, from that perspective, I think he's really succeeding. He's creating a game that people want to watch. And then I think they're also, I mean, 10 games in, you know, it's a good sample size to show that we have a team that's willing to play and willing to fight. And that's what he's created in that system, which again adds to the excitement and the foundation to be able to support a team like that.
Yeah, I agree, homie. And one thing that I'm going to add to that is I feel like the expectations are changing for the Rapids, and we're starting to see them. But I
Mhm.
think it's because this team is earning them. You know what I mean? This team is
Mhm.
definitely earning the expectations that we're starting to see them. Because you're right, a lot of people are not Rapid sickles like you and I. A lot of people, MLS fans, or even just maybe some casuals, watch a game here and there, and they don't watch the full 90 and break it down and really discuss it. So you're
Yeah.
right, my homie. The more and more we dive into it, and the more and more our expectations just seem to grow for both Matt Wells and this Colorado Rapids team. It's because they're earning it, Crash. This team is
Mhm.
fighting. Let's go back to the Miami game. We went down 2-0, fought our asses back, my homie. That we if there was a lid on that on Invesco, I still call it Invesco, on Mile High, we would have blown the top off of it. Crash when
Absolutely.
Hoff was the second, right? Like it would have just been nuts, my homie. So there's massive fight that just that levels you up, my homie, right? Even we talked about it on the pod for that week. We learned so much about our heart. We learned so much about our fight. We learned so much about our squad in that game, and even going to
Yeah.
BMO and picking up that draw in a boring match for them. But we were on the front foot throughout that whole first half. We were trying things. We were trying it, and don't get me wrong. We withstood their onslaught of the second half because LAFC came out swinging, and we were able to stand. We stood on our 10 toes, which I applaud the Rapids for doing. I applaud the way they fought. And again, Vancouver, we got our asses whooped, but we didn't give up, Crash. The third goal, yes, we were tired. That's gonna happen, my homie. After a long fight, them later rounds, if the other opponent still has a haymaker and he's swinging them, you better duck because you're gonna get knocked the hell out, Crash. And I think
Yeah.
that's just what happened to us, on that match. They hit us with that two-piece at the end, and it was just lights out for the Rapids. You can't be mad at it, my homie. You just can't be mad at the way we've performed. Like I said, not just these last 3 games, Crash, but just in this last 2.5, 3 weeks run of fixtures that we've had, homie.
hmm Yeah. Absolutely. It's been exciting. I mean, it's fun to be a Rapids fan this year, which is not something we've been able to say for a long time. There's been moments, but not consistency, right? And so,
Yeah. Crash, we're going to get proceeding with the proceedings this evening, and we're going to talk about the next segment. We have a huge match coming up against an in-state rival. Down south, I-25ers, my homies, they're coming. They're going to be prepared for this game, Crash.
yeah.
Is it going to be a tougher game than maybe we're expecting? As we're talking about the expectations that we just set higher for the Rapids, what type of
I don't think
expectations
it's going to be
should we
I
have
don't
for
think it's
this
going to be an
game?
easy game. Yeah, no, it's
I
not
don't
going
think
to be
so
an easy
either.
game at all. I mean, it's a Colorado Derby game that we you know, that we have to win, right? Colorado Springs is bringing in, I've seen that they're bringing their crew up. I mean, it's not far away. Those who aren't familiar with Colorado or maybe listening from outside the state, Colorado Springs is, an hour, maybe, hour ish south of Denver. So this is a team that or a place where, you're going to have supporters of the Switchbacks, drive up for. I know they've got a bus, bringing up as many as they can. So it should be a pretty busy stadium with other, other supporters in Dix. So it'll be interesting, which will add a nice, fun little extra flavor to that game. But then also the other side of it, you know, Switchbacks have already upset one MLS team. They're going to want to do the same, especially for their cross state rivals, and uh,
Mhm.
and so they're going to come to play. They're a good quality team that's well coached, um, and it's going to be how we show up against them. They're not as road worn as we are at this point, and so there's a lot of factors going into this that could kind of make this interesting. But even then, like when Omaha came to play, we only won that 1-0. So, we can't necessarily play that same type of game that we played against Omaha against Switchbacks and expect us not to get, upset.
That was a dicey game, my homie. A physical game against the Omaha Union. I was a tough one, bro. This midweek games, I mean, it's a different brand of football, especially it being, the US Open Cup. I was just seeing how many times we've faced that lot down the road, and it's been three
Mhm.
professional games against them, winning two, losing one. So they have done us in a game before. However, we do hold the the more victories in that series. Bro, how important would it be for the Rapids to just beat this team, advance to, I think it would be the last eight, which I think is quarterfinals.
Mhm.
This is a great opportunity for this Rapids team and Matt Wells to fight for some silverware. Crash, I'm gonna pose the question to you. And not to look too far ahead, but excuse me, if we were somehow to advance in this tournament, now you're talking about the quarterfinals, your quarterfinals,
Mhm.
semifinals, and then finals. You're 3 games away from a trophy in your first season with Matt Wells, first season at the club. Would you put your eggs more into that basket and say, all right, we may have to sacrifice a couple of these MLS games, considering the MLS season is long and it's not the number one ranked team that wins the league. It's a playoff system. You could get
Yeah.
anywhere in here and make it into the last dance. And once you're in the playoffs, that's a whole nother ball game, right? That's a whole nother league. So
Mhm.
Crash, from the coach's point of view, my homie, I like to do this on the podcast. What would you do, homie? How would you attack it? If not saying throw all your eggs in that basket now, but if we
Yeah.
get past this round and we're looking down the barrel of maybe a freaking trophy in a couple of games, what do you do?
Oh, you're going to win it. I mean, I agree. I mean, you have an opportunity to make a run for a cup. You're gonna take it, right? You're not going to sit back and be like, oh, we're playing against a lower league team. We're just gonna throw some of our guys at it and see what happens. Like they want to win. So I'd expect Matt to approach this similar to he does any other game. Like he's going to look at the tactics, he's going to look at the system, he's going to put the best players out on there. I would expect to still see a little bit of rotation just due to the congestion of the games that we've had. But I don't expect us to not have go out there and try to win this. And so it'll be an interesting thing if we get this if we get this win against Switchbacks, which we should. There's no reason why we shouldn't win this game. Then you know Wells is going to go full tilt to win this, and if he's not already, and I think so. I think that's the key of it. At the end of the day, the season is really long, and it's a grind to get to the end. And again, you just have to make sure you're in the right place at the end of the match, and then make that tournament run in the playoffs to win. So that's the long term goal. Short term goal is this is something we can grab right now. We're gonna go try to take it, and I would imagine you'll see that tomorrow with the team that is out on the pitch and the way they perform.
Yeah. No, my homie, I love it. It's Cup chaos, my homie. Cup chaos is going to be in Commerce City tomorrow. At least that's what I'm expecting. Um, there's always a danger of underestimating these lower divisions. They did beat SKC a week and a half ago
Yeah,
when they played their game, bro. So they definitely have
absolutely.
uh, slayed a giant, if you will. Um, what type of lineup rotation do you want, Crash?
I would imagine we're gonna see something like we've seen consistently already. We'll be at home, so maybe we see some minutes from some of the youngsters that didn't travel or that are available. But I would imagine we're gonna get probably a similar style lineup as we got against Union Omaha, where you're seeing a mix of you know players that are trying to get it's a good chance we see Reggie Cannon out there since he's back.
Great shout.
Maybe we get some minutes for him to get his legs back under him. I wouldn't imagine you're going to see starters that played 60 minutes against Vancouver out there starting. So you're going to see probably a rotation there. It'll be interesting. I would imagine I think Hoffa, he was benched for the Union Omaha game and came on to get a few minutes at the end. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that with Yappy starting, and
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see if we see Manyoma get a start, and then do we see Georgie or Dante out there on the wings? So it'll be dependent on some of that. I wouldn't be surprised to see either one of them starting. They've both been getting a lot of minutes lately, though, so that's my only concern is is there, are they going to be as fresh as they can be? So it'll be interesting to kind of see how they play it. But I would imagine you see some of the main starters out there for this game for sure.
And Matt Wells has preached about wanting to implement that European style philosophy and tactics or whatever. And technically, usually, in the European style, you'll see the second goalkeeper run these domestic tournaments. Is this Nico's tournament?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a way to keep your keeper fresh and keep him out there just in case. And I think Nico's definitely earned it. He's shown his quality and his ability, so I wouldn't be surprised if Nico is out there. I'd almost be surprised to see Zach at this point.
Yeah.
Not because like the mistakes or challenges that he's had that we've seen in the past, but just because of that, like what you said. I think he's in the mindset. Nico's a solid backup for Zach and deserves the minutes, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of almost play through this tournament with him as goalkeeper.
Yeah. No, I agree, homie. And look, I'm just looking for a strong performance tomorrow. I think I think we need to get a goal or two before halftime. I'd hate to
Yeah.
leave this one late. I'd hate to even think about what is it, extra time or penalties or what are
Yeah.
they doing with that? I'm not really too versed in the U.S. Open Cup, but definitely don't want to see a game be prolonged. One, because I'm gonna have a long ass day tomorrow, and the last thing I want to do is be
Mhm.
at the Richard till 11:30. You know what I mean? But no, I
For
mean,
sure.
talking football wise though, you know what I mean? I would hate to go into the Houston match on tired legs or on legs that maybe we could have rested and just didn't take care of business midweek,
Mhm.
especially if we were to lose, crash, and waste a lot of energy heading into the weekend. Um, but look, I'm getting ahead of myself, my homies. Definitely rooting for the Rapids to pick up a well-needed victory against this lot down the road. It's going to be a massive, massive turnout from them. I can just feel it already. I'm kind of interested to see what they're going to do. Crash this last U.S. Open Cup. They just had the East Side and the South Bank Open. I wonder if they're going to put that lot down in that northwest corner like they normally do the away fans and open that up for them to kind of get them away from us throughout the game. Crash, anything we didn't touch on that maybe you want to discuss before we wrap it up, my homie?
No, man, I'm excited for it. I should be there. I've got training with my daughter. I'll be there till about 6:30, so I think we might just wrap up from there and go straight over. So might be a little delayed getting in to the game, but we'll try to make it for sure. I think this one kicks off at 7, if I'm not mistaken, so it's a little bit earlier of a kickoff time than we're usually accustomed to. Yeah, it's exciting. It's fun. It's a good opportunity to see more games. It's an easily accessible one. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they have it set up. I would imagine they're going to have it similar to how it was against Union Omaha. I wouldn't imagine it's going to be a full stadium at that point, but you
Yeah.
never know. Maybe because of the switchbacks, they're gonna kind of open things up. So it'll be fun. Definitely come out and support the Rapids if you can, because it's always a fun night. It's usually general admission seats, so you can kind of sit and move wherever you want. There's plenty of open space, which is nice. You can come and hang out in the South Bank and move over the normal seats if you want to change it up. But definitely fun for sure.
Yeah. No, I like these. I like that environment because it's usually just the certified sickos that show up crash on that
Yeah.
game. Um, yeah, no, look, do you want to get back together maybe on Thursday, homie? We could probably discuss what happened on the game and probably dive into the Houston match if we have some time, you know what I mean? I know we probably could have did that today, but I'm knackered, my homie, and I can
Yeah.
I can see you are too, bro. We put kind of both are. It's just hit
Yeah,
10 p.m., my
it's been a
homies, and
long
we're
week.
yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we can. It'd be good to. So we'll come back later in the week, guys, and kind of touch base on the Open Cup and really where we're sitting and ready for Saturday for against Houston because we'll have an away day there. So it's a big week for us. Lots again fixture congestion. Lots of Leo and I on the confluence here talking to you guys. So we'll give you one more preview before we get into the weekend.
Yeah. No, I like it, my homie. I like it. And what a way to end it. Look, I just want to big everybody up for tuning in. Don't forget to drop by our one-stop shop for the Confluence, theconfluencepod.com. Again, theconfluencepod.com. You can get everything there, my homie. We have our latest watch along is on there. Different bits and bobs that you could check out, my homies. Definitely swing by there. It's a work in progress. Don't get us wrong. You know what I mean? We're new at this. We're just getting the hang of it. But it's honestly very gratifying and we appreciate all the support and love that we're getting, my homies. And yeah, nowhere to go from here, my homies, but up the Pids. Let's go. We'll see you guys on the next episode. You filthy animals.
Yeah. My heart, C38, Lil Coys and KTK. Locals on the fly causing turbulence, causing waves on our way to the confluence. New voice for the fans, from the pitch to the stands. Mile high, locals in the South Bank lads. Leo Coys and the whole knee crash. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. Yeah, it's trance, I'm blind to rhymes and laughter. Head to the waters if it's Pids, you're after. C38, the time is now. Locals on the drums to hold it down. Like the stream and 2 5 stars. The mile high hot spur and crash the car. My high sleep for the 8. Lil Coys and KTK. Locals on the fly causing turbulence, causing waves on our way to the confluence. New voice for the fans, from the pitch to the stands. My high locals in the South Bank lads. Leo Coys and a whole knee crash. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. Yeah. It's chance, I'm bound to rounds, I love the head to the wars if it's Pids, you're off the C38, this time is now. Locals on the jump to hold it down. Like the stream and do 5 stars. The mile high hot spur and crash the car.